Well, invasive species has been something that in this state we have actually, as conservation officers, we've been enforcing laws related to them for at least 20 years. Before I came on the department, we had processes in place, we had laws in place, and so it's something that we've always done. We didn't turn a blind eye per se. If our officers encountered, vegetation on trailers, they were stopping those trailers and dealing with it and so forth. But just in the past couple years is where, because of the continued spread of it across the state and the continued infestation of our lakes, has it really been ramped up. The laws were basically rewritten. There was a lot more teeth put in them. There was a lot more broad of a spectrum that we grabbed. For example, pulling the plug in a boat. Right now you cannot transport from an access water-related equipment, which is even another new term, which would be considered like a boat, a trailer. We have a definition of it in 84D, unless the plug has been pulled in the boat. That's a major, major step for us, for the citizens of the state to change how they've done business. And we didn't have that years ago, but that's one of the examples that I use is the lengths that we're going to try and stop the movement of water, which, of course, is where a lot of these invasives are spread or how they're spread. So it's a new war, but it's not a war that we haven't been already involved with, I guess I would say. So, the aquatic invasive species enforcement, we have about 150 field officers. When we're full staff, we're a division of 200. We are currently, working always to keep academies going, and we actually just graduated 8 more, and we have another academy starting. So as a division and the enforcement side of it, that's kind of the numbers that we have to work with in the state, where the licensed police officers, so city officers, state troopers, county deputy sheriffs, and ourselves, we can all enforce AIS laws and rules and regulations, but because of our focus of natural resources, it falls in our lap, and we are the primary lead on those. Our current chief, Colonel Jim Konrad, has made this an absolute division priority for us, which is not what it was for many years. Like I said, we've done it, but it was one of many things we do. It was not a priority. It was not set aside for work hours, budgets, details. This picture here is pretty old, but this is an example of when we used to do, when they weren't called, it wasn't called AIS, it was called exotic species. And we did exotic species road checks for many years, but now we're looking for a lot more than just vegetation and so forth with the mussels and the transporting of water. So it's a part of our core work. Our officers have been, we have browbeated into them to basically, it has become as normal as a day of work. If every contact is a normal contact, if they're mentioning AIS prevention, they are educating the public, they're answering questions. When they're doing compliance checks, no matter what the compliance check is, it is rolling off their tongue, and they're reminding the general public, because pretty much all the resource users at some point are around the water or using the water. So we feel that it needs to become just standard, part of their standard procedures when they make contact with the public. I was looking at these hours, and I'm not a PowerPoint guy. I didn't have a chance to change them. You can kind of see some of the numbers. My question is, I did not make this slide. The work hours, I'm not sure those hours are, or what those are all combined, but I did jot down our latest numbers. What our officers do is, when we've given them direction that whenever they work in a day's work, whenever they work any AIS enforcement, they need to log that. They do a separate log. I could pull the log up and show you if you really wanted to, but basically we've defined the difference between a law compliance contact and an educational contact, and then we document if there's any warnings, any citations, or whether they're criminal or civil, and we do not log verbal warnings, and they've been given direction. We do not give verbal warnings on AIS. Everything is documented in some shape or fashion. So that's kind of where we get our numbers. Our current numbers as of last week and these are basically for 2 months because you know, the season really starts for us in May for when the people start recreating around the water. Right now, last week we have just about 2,500 hours into AS enforcement dedicated. We've done, between law compliance contacts and educational contacts, we've contacted 21,000 people physically in the field. A little over 12,000 of those are education. An education contact is where an officer is answering questions, providing information, but not physically doing any inspection of a piece of equipment or so forth. So they're at a restaurant, they're at a gas station, they are somewhere, and the public approaches them for a question, or they're at a booth at a sports show and they're answering questions, that type of thing. A law compliance contact is a physical, where they're physically inspecting a piece of equipment and looking for a violation to make sure that we are in compliance. We've written between civil citations and criminal citations so far in the last couple of months, just under 700, and we've written over 1,000 written warnings. And there again, we don't log verbals, and they've been given direction that we don't want verbal warnings. So.
And Captain Palmer just asked a question here, and other people, if you don't mind, can ask questions, interject if they simply just unmute their line.
Anytime.
The question I had here is that this is 2 years worth of data, but your program is much older than that, so I assume there's been you're issuing more citations today than you would have earlier because when the program first started, you were issuing more warnings at that point, or have the citations and warnings been pretty consistent over the entire time you've had the program in place?
Everything is increasing, and it goes with our efforts and our focus. Prior to 2010, we did not do logs. We did not have set hours, goal hours for officers to hit. So we didn't have any records beyond if they issued a citation, it would be in our records management system. But we did not do logs to log, and then we did not define the difference between an educational contact and a law compliance contact. So really our data that we're using is really starting in 2010. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
You bet. Kind of mentioned earlier, this is a picture that I think that was taken last summer of some of our officers working, and there again, it's become a daily thing for them. If they're anywhere, it's built into them that they will mention, they will speak about it, they will remind. If it's a shore fisherman, they're talking about their bait, the transporting of water, the transporting of bait. We have rules regarding that. If it's a boat, there's a list of things to talk about and remind them of. So it's just really becoming one of our core daily things that we're working on. We talk about a variety of places that water can be stored, mussels can attach. We point out to the public just about everything we can to try and educate them on this. And, I would say that because we're really working hard to change the culture of how Minnesotans recreate. And there's been some growing pains, but I would say that we're seeing some good success in people complying. There's people that are very much wanting to do the right thing. They're asking questions. They're calling my office. They're calling the officers. They're stopping us. Will you look at this? Is this okay? Have I done this right? We're still seeing a pretty high non-compliance rate with our numbers. We're hovering around the 20% range. We are a little concerned with that, but there's a lot of factors obviously associated with that, and we're new at this where we're really starting to watch that data. So hopefully that will start to tail down, but I would say the general public's support is there. We have very few complaints. A lot of it is just clarification questions and so forth. Kind of where do we go from here and what we're doing. We're continuing to get out there. We just did a check station for the first time in my region last Friday. We did not pick the busiest location in the world, but we picked a spot that we felt we could manage and deal with any questions or issues. There's some media reports that people are going to contested and so forth. We had nothing like that. It was a very uneventful event, I guess I would say. We had great compliance, and on top of it, it was a really nice day outside, so it was nice to get out of the office. We're going to continue to institute the check stations. We're scheduling them around the state, and we'll just keep working those. We have work to fill our vacant stations. We have 9 dedicated resource protection officers. They're conservation officers. It's promotion, and their focus is on wetlands, waters, and shoreline aquatic plant management protection. And they're kind of the technical officers for when a local officer, if they have a case, a wetland case, the draining filling of one, or shoreline alteration, or an AIS case or issue, they're the technical expertise if an officer needs more assistance or direction. So we have those 9 positions filled. We recently just got those filled a couple months ago, so which has really been good because they're our frontline people for contacts and education things and so forth. We will continue. We've continued to train our staff and update our staff. We're constantly providing direction, information, education, and our officers are on board. They know the importance of this. They realize the importance of it. They're fully supportive of it, and they're making it a daily routine in their work for the information, education, and enforcement. We do provide training. We offer training. There again, our wetland enforcement officers or water resource enforcement officers, they provide training to local law enforcement if they would like the training. We've done some of those throughout the state. It's not mandated, but if a local police department has a heavy recreation lake within their city or something, and they would like to assist or be more knowledgeable on it, we more than will happily train them on the basics and get them started. So education of the public won't stop, and we've hit media very, very hard. We have brochures, posters, pamphlets. We have dedicated locations on our main DNR website. It's a very, very big thing. It's not only the Division of Enforcement. Our Division of Waters and Ecological Services is a big role in this. They provide inspectors that sit at accesses. They're there to survey the public, provide information. They don't write citations. They have no enforcement ability. They're just there to basically monitor and assist and educate. So I think that's it for the slides. I could pull up the statute if you need to, or if there's questions, and feel free to ask.